Hi friends, it's Heather with Running with Scissors, and you saw in the opening that we are making the Patriotic Shelf Sitter America Land That I Love. And this is your June 2025 box number 56 of It's in the Box. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so you'll have your stand. I don't think your stand will be shrink wrapped with your other pieces. So this is your two-piece stand. And then you'll have your shrink wrap pieces, and don't worry if they're floating around in there. They can't all stay together even on a shrink wrap, so they should all be in there for you. And then you'll have some wedges and a paintbrush, 6 different colored paints, and a glue. Now you are going to need some blue painter's tape, a pair of scissors, and you probably should have some baby wipes ready as well. So let's go ahead and take our stuff out of our box and let's get started. Now you can use your box to paint on if you would like. I just used my table cover. I'm going to take and I'm going to cut my wedges down. I'm going to cut them into strips like this because you don't need the full wedge except for one of them. So cut 3 of your wedges into strips. And of course, I'm just using leftover wedges in this paint studio because we have gazillions of them. But you guys cut your nice clean ones into strips. Leave one hole, okay? Leave one hole to paint that backer board. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my backer board. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my package cut open here, and I'm going to take all my little letters and I'm going to stick them to my tabletop so I don't lose them. I'm going to take a piece of tape here and I'm just going to fold the edges under, and I'm going to stick it right down on my table here, and then I'm going to put my little letters, my God bless and land that I love. Let's go to land that. All right, and then probably grab another piece of tape here for the stars. Do not grab the eye dot star because you want to make sure that that stays with your eye. This one here. All right, so we've got those pieces in place. I guess we could do one more piece of tape. I'm going to divide my letters up because I want them to be red and blue. So I'm going to take my A and my E, my I with the I dot, and the other A, and keep those on the one side there. That's going to be my red letters. This M, R, and C are going to be my blue letters. These we'll do blue, but we'll do those in a minute. And let's see, this backer here, oops, sorry about that. This backer here, we're going to do white, okay? So let's, whoops, looks like I had some pieces that needed to be popped out that I did not notice. Let's get those popped out. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my full white wedge that I have left that I did not cut, and I'm going to open my white paint, and we're going to work through this all paint colors and then go back and do second coats. So I'm holding mine because I'm trying to keep it in camera view here. So we're going to go ahead and just pounce a thin coat of white paint on this. Try to avoid getting paint on this tab. I already got a little bit there, but that little bit's okay. But try to avoid getting paint on that because that slides down into that slot there. And if it gets too much paint on it, it won't want to slide down. Well, it's going to need a couple of coats. So let's just go ahead and work our way through one coat. Okay, that's one coat and it's pretty much dry, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put the second coat on it so we can set it to the side. Okay, there's my second coat, and I really do think that it's going to need a third coat, but the second coat didn't dry as fast as the first, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to the side, and we'll get started on a couple of other things with our white paint. All right, so the God Bless America Land That I Love, this whole section here is going to be white as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and using that same sponge. I'm going to pounce off the paint on these though because they're a lot smaller. And these are going to need about 3 coats as well, so we can put the second coat on and probably let that dry for a minute and come back to the third. All right, so our AEIA is going to be red, and this is going to be the bright moonlight blue. So we can paint those now, and we're just going to use a half wedge for each one of those. And we're going to come back and give everything another coat. And then we're going to come back over to this guy and give it its last coat. All right, that looks good on that. We'll just set that to the side. And I don't think that these are going to need any more coats, so we'll just move along here. I'm going to kind of be out of frame here. Let me see. Let me move this. All right, let's do this. We're going to use our dark blue. This is our navy blue for this. And then another half wedge. And we're just going to fill this in here. And this will need 2 coats, possibly 3. And with this up here. And then we're also going to paint our stand, okay? Careful you do not get paint down in that tab or that slot, because you want that tab to fit down into that slot, and it will not fit if you get a bunch of paint down in that slot. And then you also have to paint the bottom one. You don't have to paint the whole thing, but it's a quick paint anyway. But you have to have the outside edges done. All right, and then we're gonna go back and we're gonna put a second coat on. Okay. All right, so everything but our stars are painted, and our stars aren't painted yet because I'm not sure what color I want them to be. And I'm not gonna know until I start laying things together. However, I want to start some of the little detail works. So I'm gonna bring these back to me, and I'm gonna grab my red sponge and my red paint and my black paint. And I'm going to take my red sponge and I'm going to grab a little bit of black, just a tiny little bit. And over here on my table where I had my red paint, I'm just going to mix that in to get a little bit of a darker color there. Really all I care about is what's on the sponge. And I'm going to pounce off a lot of that because I don't really want a ton of it on the sponge. And I'm going to pick up the letters and I'm going to just grab the edge. And I'm going to darken them up. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. If you get too much, just grab some red and go back over it. I got kind of a sharp edge there. Sharp edge of black. There we go, that's better. All right, so you can see I just grabbed the top edge and the bottom edge. I'm gonna do that with all of the red letters. With the star, I'm gonna go all the way around. And then for my blue letters, I'm gonna straighten these out on my tape so I can work from top to bottom on them. And I'm going to use my same blue sponge I was using, and I'm getting it a little more blue. And I'm going to go ahead and get a nice fresh coat of blue on it so it's wet. And I'm going to grab the tiniest bit of black and get that darkened up a little bit. And I'm going to come in on the top, and I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way down with that black, that darker blue. You can even use the navy blue if you wanted to, but all right. And then I'm going to take that same sponge. I cut the end off of it. I'm going to come back to that bright blue, and I'm going to grab a tiny little bit of the white and lighten that up just a little bit. And then I'm going to come from the bottom. And then I'm going to take that sponge again, and I just cut it off so I have a clean piece of it. I'm going to go right back to the straight blue we started with, pounce most of it off, and I'm going to come right through the middle here just to blend those two together. All right, I'm going to bring my tray over here, my backer board over, and I'm just going to lay my pieces on it so I can look at them and make sure that I like them and see if there's any changes I want to make. Now, your eye is a little bit rounded at one end. That rounded part is the top of the eye. Okay, so there's that. Oh yeah, that looks good. I like that. All right, so now we can decide what color we want our stars now that we can look at it a little bit. We have a couple of stars there. So I think I'll just do them. Well, what am I gonna do? I don't know yet. Hold that thought for a second. Let's finish up our banner here and get those in place. So our banner, I think I'm going to take my white sponge and I'm going to get most of the paint out of it. And I think I'm just going to come in and frost the edges of the banner. All right, so that's that. And then same thing down here. I'm just going to run the sponge along the edges of it. This would be cute all splattered with white as well. And when you're all done, if you want to take a toothbrush and water up some of your white paint, it would be really cute. Okay, now we're going to move on to this song, God Bless America Land That I Love. And originally in my head, this had a little bit of a lighter blue. So I have some Peaceful River here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a half a wedge and dip it in the Peaceful River and pounce most of that off. And then I think I'm just going to go on the edges of it. Bottom edge only, I think. And I'm going to do it really lightly so the white kind of faded into the Peaceful River. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab some white and we're going to make that blend a little bit more. I don't want a real sharp definition of when it became blue. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to paint the bottom parts. I suppose I can leave those down. Kind of need a little bit more room. Okay. All right, so then I'm just going to come back with my white sponge. And I'm going to grab some more white paint and just pounce it off. And then I'm just going to come back along the top and get some fresh wet white paint on there. And then I'm going to grab my sponge that I was using, my blue sponge. Oh, nope, that's too much. That's too much there. I'm just going to kind of blend those together. There we go. Perfect. All right, you see that? So I'm just blending the white into the blue there. And I've just got my blue sponge and I just grabbed some white paint on one half of it. And it's got the blue paint on the other half of it. And then I'm just putting the divider where the letters divide, the two colors on the letter. And then I'm just pouncing right over top of it to just to blend that in, to make that a little more seamless of a blend. Yeah, that's good. Sometimes it's a little trial and error, guys, to get what you want it to do, how you want it to look. All right, there. Yeah, that's great. I like that. I want you to see a close-up of how that looks. Okay, so let's bring this back over and let's lay this stuff in place so we can make some final decisions here. All right. Okay. Okay. Just gonna grab this out of the way so I can lay this right here. That should stay in frame. I know it's in frame now, but when I transfer it to a YouTube, sometimes it cuts off the top. So I hope you can still see that. That looks really good. That turned out great. Okay, so we've got our stars here. Let's say we're gonna put a star on the A. So let's do a big star. Let's see here. The small star on top of the M is gonna be red. And then the big star on top of the E, we're just gonna go ahead and do, let's do that light blue that we were using when we blended our letters. So I'm just gonna use that sponge. And then, oh, I got them too close together. Okay. We're going to put a star on the A. So that star on the A is red. Let's do the bright blue that we started with. And we'll do the big star. And then we'll put the smaller star on the, let's put that on the R. Let's go ahead and make that white. All right, all of these are gonna need 2 or 3 coats. All right, nice. Okay, we can start cleaning up so we can glue. Okay, so everything is pretty much where we want it with the exception of the stars that are over here getting their last little dry time on. So we're gonna start gluing. I'm just gonna use house glue, but you guys have a tube of glue. And I'm just gonna start with the letters, and then we'll glue from the top down. So just a little bit of glue on the back of your letters, and if you get too much, just pounce it off on your box or your table cover. All right, now we just got our stars and our base. So let's see, we were going to put this light blue larger star right here. And then the small red one right here. We're going to do the large blue one on the A. Let's just go ahead and put that right there. And then the small white one, I think I said on the R, so let's go ahead and put that there. Okay, that's cute. I see a couple areas where I need a little bit of touch up, so I'm just going to do that now. Use my little brush. And just do some touch up. I think that might have been the only place. Okay. And then while I got my white out, I'm going to take the wrong end of my paintbrush and just dip it into that and get some paint on the end. And I'm just going to do our little dots on our letters. Just do 3 dots. I only dip once. All right, I think that's it there. Let's put our base together. All right, so the way that I like to do the bases, so I know that they're always going to fit. Now be careful because you do have wet paint here. I like to take the top base and slide that on, just like that. And then I like to tip it upside down, put the glue on that bottom base piece, and then take, okay, worth mentioning really quickly, let me tell you this. There is, let me slide that back off. See how the tab, the slot, is not centered? There's a narrow space and like a little bit wider on one side. The wider side goes towards the front. That's because your project is built up, layered, and so there's more layers towards the front. So the wider spot faces the front. Okay, so we can slide that back on. And I've got glue all over it, so I can't push it on. Okay, and then we take the other piece and make sure you got the wide side, the same direction, and you're just going to line the 2 tabs up. I have to do it down, I'm sorry, and then push them together. And actually this slot is only the thickness of the 1 tab, so there's really nothing to line up there. But if your tab is the thickness of both of the stands, it's better to do that way, the one at a time there. Okay, and then there you go. I got a little bit of white paint down here at the bottom that I'm going to have to clean up a little bit. But this is super cute. Look at how great those colors look. I really love that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for box number 56, and we'll see you again in July.